Zuko is one of the most round, dynamic, three-dimensional characters I've had the pleasure of witnessing. His gradual development is some of the most beautiful human evolution found in literature. He hangs between good and evil for the majority of the series, but in the end, he doesn't let his family history and previous motivations define him. He chooses the right side and finds inner peace. In the beginning of the series, we're introduced to this compulsive teenager obsessed with his honor, which is really just how he defines acceptance. In order to come back to the Fire Nation and reclaim his place as prince, he embarks on a 3-year journey in hopes of capturing the Avatar. Starting his journey, Zuko thought he knew what he wanted, but as we find out later on, that couldn't be further from the truth. His uncle and father figure Iroh was the cornerstone of his development. Iroh stood by his side and even tried helping him catch the Avatar on occasions. His actions early on served to help Zuko understand that catching the Avatar was not his destiny. He won't be able to do it no matter how hard he tries because it's not his destiny. This is something he doesn't fully understand until much later on. And it's not until book 2 where we see Iroh subtly shift his approach when handling Zuko. He tries to teach Zuko that he needs to find his own destiny, his own purpose, and not to try and please his father. It was never explicitly stated, but it can be inferred that Iroh was far more militaristic before his son's death. After he dies, he realizes the mistake in his ways and tries to fix himself. After he does, he becomes the symbolic and visual representation of the Buddha himself, transforming into a wise old sage. He doesn't want Zuko to transform into what he used to be, and he does everything in his power to fix it. He's trying to transform Zuko into a brave soldier boy.
If you look for the light, you can often find it. But if you look for the dark, that is all you will ever see.
We see glimmers of Zuko's kind side buried under his hot blood in the episode The Storm. In The Storm, we learn about Zuko's backstory. We learn about who he was and what drove him to become who he is now. After we learn about Zuko's backstory, we're reminded how he is still fundamentally the same person as he was when he was a child. When he sees the Avatar but decides not to pursue him, he puts the safety of his crew over the ultimate goal. This is the exact same mentality he had approaching the situation that got him banished to begin with. Zuko is still a kind boy even after everything he went through. The seeds of a kind man have been planted, but it isn't until Zuko and Iroh split up where the seeds begin to flourish. It's not until the pair split up where Zuko begins to revitalize his innate kindness and realize his identity. Zuko alone is one of the most important episodes in the series. Zuko learns that people don't actually like the Fire Nation. The Fire Nation isn't out to make the world better, but to destroy it. We see him begin to sympathize with common civilians. He relates to their problems, he treats them like equals and them likewise. He knows what it's like to fail. He knows what it's like to have hope, only to then fall further into despair. Time after time, losing to the Avatar, straying further away from his honor. Now he's dirt poor, nothing at all. This episode is the first to really capture the human aspect developing in Zuko, humbling himself down from royalty to commoner. He's no more important than the average person. This is where Zuko starts to re-evaluate his decisions. Throughout the episode, we get flashbacks to Zuko's childhood. Zuko is, at his core, a kind, passionate boy, but now he's just confused. He starts to understand that even if he were to come back, he wouldn't want to continue what the Fire Nation has been doing. He's not like his father. He's not fit to rule the Fire Nation as it currently stands. He feels like a cold, vapid shell of a person without love or direction. He wants acceptance more than anything, and thinks that the only way to receive it is by catching the Avatar. At the end of the episode, he's immediately shunned for simply being Fire Nation. This is despite the kindness that he just put on display. He was now subject to the cultural intolerance his nation had been lashing out against others all this time. Zuko realizes on some level through his experience that he isn't like the Fire Nation. He isn't an evil person.
Growing up, we were taught that the Fire Nation was the greatest civilization in history. And somehow, the war was our way of sharing our greatness with the rest of the world. What an amazing lie that was.
The crossroads of destiny. Old habits die hard. Sometime after meeting up with Iroh again, he saves the Avatar's bison and falls sick. He had some serious withdrawal symptoms and was facing denial, not truly knowing who he was. It's as though he was addicted to being a hot-tempered boy obsessed with his idea of honor, and now he's gone and done something in direct opposition to that. His mind, body, and soul couldn't compute what was going on. Zuko was so addicted to capturing the Avatar and his idea of honor that when he did something so diametrically opposed to what he believed in, he had withdrawal symptoms comparable to that of an addict. Addictions are the strongest mental link our brain is capable of harnessing. So for Zuko to break that link in any meaningful way does some serious damage to his mind. It shows how set he was on capturing the Avatar, and how unfathomable it was for him to help him by letting his bison go free. During this time, Zuko's clashing ideologies and personas are now visible. He acted so opposed to the way he pictured himself that he literally saw himself as the Avatar, the person he was so vehemently hell-bent on fighting against. When he snaps out of it, he's a changed man, fully embracing his alternate persona, the one that we saw when he was a kid. As fate would have it, he gets warped into conflict with the Avatar gang once again. He must now choose if he is to go back to his old life and capture the Avatar, or fully embrace his new persona. Oscillating between good and evil, he makes the wrong decision. What this shows us is that it's easy to make good decisions when you're surrounded by good people, but it takes a truly strong will to make the right decisions even when there's negative influence around you. When Zuko was with his uncle, he was able to make good decisions, but as soon as Azula joined the picture again, he fell back. He relapsed. Zuko had changed, but was still faintly clinging on to his past life. He wasn't ready to fully let go of it. This was a very frustrating yet human decision. Development doesn't happen all at once, nor is it really a gradual process. It's a series of many ups and downs. You may believe you're a changed person, but when you're truly tested, you break. Catching Aang was Zuko's goal, no, his addiction for 3 years of his life, and he wasn't willing to let it go so easily, especially under optimal circumstances. His honor was right there in front of him, he just needed to go and grab it. When push came to shove, it was too difficult for him to commit. It's hard, painful to watch him relapse, especially when the show made such an effort to get him to change, only to go and fall back to the manipulation of Azula. This comes immediately after he convinced Katara to give him another chance. He let down Katara, but more importantly, he let down the one man who always believed in him. When Zuko returns Prince of the Fire Nation, he feels nothing but anger, confusion, and dissatisfaction. Zuko had gone through some change, but ultimately wasn't fully ready to accept Iroh's teachings. He needs to see what his perceived honor really is to remind himself why he's on the wrong path. His heart grows harder as his rage becomes a fury. He's gotten everything he thought he wanted, aside from the very honor he sought for the most. He's an empty person, devoid of any true honor. Zuko confronts Iroh multiple times as a way to try and cope with the confusion in his heart. He then realizes his true destiny is to join the Avatar. On the day of Black Sun, he finally confronts his father just to personally tell him that he rejects his ways. Rejecting the man who was the most powerful bender of his time, rejecting the man who was leading the most dominant nation, rejecting the man he tried to please for 3 years. He has now changed and is in direct opposition, first line offense against this man. It was at this moment where Zuko finally followed his destiny and found peace. In the most epic scene of the entire show, Zuko reflects his dad's lightning, symbolizing him rejecting his father. His fire technique countered by water, Iroh's wisdom over Ozai's power. He had finally found peace with himself, no longer confused. He accepted his destiny. He found his honor. I'm willing to bet that if his father directed the attack at him just a day earlier, Zuko wouldn't have been able to redirect it. The fire chakra located in the belly is blocked by shame and grief, so it was only once Zuko was able to overcome said shame was he able to redirect lightning. The struggle for him to overcome shame and guilt has now been bested with peace and goodwill. He finally has some clarity. His eyes convey a similar idea. His left eye is scarred and burnt, impairing his vision, only slightly able to see the world due to the literal fire in his eye. His right eye is clear and can see the world to the fullest. When he looks to his scar, he can only see so much, but when he flips his perspective, everything becomes clear. Zuko gave up the very title he was obsessed with after realizing he was wrong, losing everything he could ever want, only to turn around and help the people he was chasing, betting on the slim chance that they would accept him. That is an astronomical leap. Zuko is the most influential character I've witnessed in fiction. He struggles, he makes mistakes, something we can all relate to. But he doesn't let that define him. He thought he had lost his honor, and that somehow his father could return it to him. But he knows now
that no one can give you your honor. It's something you earn for yourself by choosing to do what's right.
Unfortunately, Aang and the crew don't accept him back so easily. It's not until he demonstrates an understanding of just how volatile his power could be to where he's accepted. After being accepted, Zuko uses the wisdom Iroh bestowed to him to find resolution to Katara's story arc. He also helps Sokka find his dad and teach Aang how to firebend. It's not long before he now has a new group of friends. The group being together was short-lived as Sozin's comet arrives and Zuko has to fight Azula, his younger sister, for the throne. To understand Azula's importance, we need to go back to the beginning. Azula's upbringing meaningfully juxtaposes Zuko's. Azula was a prodigy, born lucky, never making mistakes, never a hair out of place, sinister, all traits favored by her father. Zuko was average and made many mistakes. He was kind-hearted to the core and favored a lot more by his mother. The main difference in their upbringing was the fact that Zuko was genuinely loved by his mother, and Azula never got the love she wanted from her father. She was jealous of the authentic love Zuko got from her mother. Due to her father's manipulation and lack of love, this 14-year-old girl isn't even able to function in a normal society. She's a completely war-ridden girl, so seeing her trying to be normal may be humorous, but it's equally depressing in retrospect. When Mai and Ty Lee betray her, saying that their love for others is stronger than their fear of Azula, she simply can't fathom it. Love was something exclusive to Zuko and Iroh. Love was something for weak people. It goes against every way she was raised. First it was her mother, then her brother, then her friends, until finally her own father betrayed her. Not even Iroh and his infinite wisdom believed she could be saved. She's alone. The root of her breakdown was trying to appeal to a father who could never love her. When the show begins, we see Zuko on a quest to capture the Avatar. Ozai gave Zuko an impossible mission of finding the Avatar in hopes that he'd never return. 3 years later, Ozai gave Azula the very possible task of finding the Avatar in hopes that she'd succeed and return. Instead, that impossible mission made Zuko stronger and more confident. Azula failed time and time again, lost all of her confidence, and became a crazed creature.
Let's settle this. Just you and me, brother. The showdown that was always meant to be. Agni Kai!
The stage is set. Brother and sister. Two diametrically opposed worldviews. Two philosophies. Two family members fighting. There is no big thumping action soundtrack behind this fight. The music is sad and somber. It's sad that two siblings, two family members related by flesh and blood have to fight like this. From the beginning of the battle, it's clear Azula is off. She has all the hairs out of place. Azula's flames burn a brilliant blue, which could signify her precise, intricate control of fire. She's often seen using just 2 fingers to bend fire, while everyone else uses their palms or fists. In this battle, she's using her palms and fists. Zuko, with his peace of mind, was able to best his sister. For every out-of-control fire stance, Zuko would defend with a low-head earth stance. Zuko would follow up with an airbending-esque kick to knock down his sister. And even in the end, he would contain the lightning strike meant to kill him with water redirection. Zuko learned to incorporate all bending styles into his fighting to best Azula. Azula does get a cheap shot at Katara, forcing Zuko to protect her, making up for how he didn't protect her at the end of Book 2. Katara was still able to eventually lock up Azula, proving that the loving bond Zuko made trumped the controlling, manipulative associates working under Azula who came to betray her a few episodes ago. Zuko betrayed his comrades in the last arc, but now he protects them. His comrades fought with him and he ultimately won. Zuko made comrades out of love. Azula manipulated minions out of a lust for power. Zuko and Iroh's philosophy won in the end. Zuko's arc is about misguided honor. He struggles with his identity and has many setbacks, but despite this, he was still the brave soldier boy who came marching home, begging his uncle for forgiveness. He has an unconditionally loving uncle, and a group of people he can now call friends. And now he's where he belongs, at the throne, but this time with the right mindset. The Fire Nation created an era of fear in the world, and if we don't want the world to destroy itself,
we need to replace it with an era of peace and kindness.
Zuko's journey is complete, but his story isn't. In the comics, he's on a quest to save Azula, just as his uncle did for him. There were tweets some time ago explaining how Azula would get a redemption arc similar to Zuko, and I believe Zuko in the comics right now is set up to be a catalyst for that. Not even Iroh thought there was anything redeemable about Azula, but Zuko wants to save her what little hope she has left. He wants to show Azula the mercy Iroh showed to him. He wants to expel any evil remnants still left in his bloodline. In her darkest moments, she would find Zuko, who would be patient, forgiving, and unconditionally loving. All strengths he acquired from Uncle Iroh. He sees hope in that confused girl, and he will use Iroh's wisdom to bring out every ounce of kindness still left in her. And that is Zuko's honor and redemption. Thank you so much for watching.